So we're living in a day and age right now where everybody just loves to complain about everything. Everything. Even when it involves somebody giving out loads of money and stuff. So I don't know if you guys saw this recently, but Taylor Swift just finished the Eras tour. Or actually, I think it might still be going as of right now, or there's another leg or something. But anyways, the headlines we've been seeing everywhere are about how Taylor Swift tipped all of her truck drivers on that tour $100,000 each. $100,000 each. And it's not only the truck drivers. She tipped out a lot of the other crew too, most of them.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
But in typical fashion, you know, you see a story like this and you're like, damn, that's awesome. Typical fashion, the internet is like, she has so much money and she only tipped them $100,000? Man, Taylor Swift sucks. Off, dude. Are you kidding me? $100,000? You know, I've been on a lot of tours where there've been bonuses and stuff like that. I'll tell you right now, I've never got a fucking percentage of $100,000 for a bonus. Well, maybe a percentage. But anyways, that's not relevant. It's crazy. That's a crazy amount of money. Like, I've been tipped out at the end of the year or gotten a bonus from bands I've worked for. You know, but it's generally like, you know, like $5,000 or something, which is awesome. That's not a complaint. I'm just saying it's like, that's pretty normal. I've worked an entire year for somebody and around Christmas, they give us each like $5,000 or something. One of the more random ones I ever got, I did one tour with Faith No More in like 2015. I just did their merchandise, like, you know, and I was filling in. I wasn't their full-time guy. A guy that I knew was their merch guy and he had to miss a tour and asked me if I would do it. So I did one tour with them in like, I think it was like May or June or something, or maybe a little later, but Christmas that year, I got a random Christmas card in the mail and it was from Faith No More and they sent me a bonus. And I was like, what a bunch of nice fucking guys. There's only been like 3 bands I've ever worked for that I've gotten a bonus from. So it's not super common, but something like this is insane. So let's dive into this. Vix just asked, was it the crew that have to share that 100,000 or one person? No, that's per person, dude. No, she didn't tip out $100,000 in total. She tipped out $100,000 per truck driver from what this looks like. But let's look at this really quick. The headline says Taylor Swift is helping truck drivers buy first homes with $100,000 bonuses. The bonuses are a game changer for these people, the owner of one of the tour's trucking company tells Rolling Stone. Okay, so that's where we're getting the information. One of the trucking company owners has divulged this with Rolling Stone, so that's a legitimate source. Mike Schirkenbach, I believe that's the owner of Show Motion, or is it Upstaging? No, Show Motion, I think. Mike Schirkenbach, who runs a transportation company, has worked on several of Taylor Swift's tours over the years. In the time he's worked with the singer, he says he's always known her to be generous to her crew, but the $100,000 bonuses she gave to each of his drivers who worked on the full U.S. leg of the Eras tour have been unprecedented and life-changing. Schirkenbach was not a driver on the tour himself, just owns the company. She's giving a sum of money that is life-changing for these people. Schirkenbach of the concert transportation company Show Motion tells Rolling Stone, a lot of these drivers are not homeowners, and a lump sum like this gives you the ability to put a down payment on a home. That's what makes me really happy. That generosity is a game changer for these people. On Tuesday, news broke that Swift had given some $55 million in total in bonuses to her dancers, sound technicians, riggers, and truck drivers. Show Motion has worked on 3 of Swift's stadium tours so far, including Eras, transporting the tour's structures, the stage, the deck, the skeleton that everything hangs on from city to city. Another company, Upstaging, handles the tour's lighting, sound, and video equipment. So let's talk about a couple things in this really quick. There are a couple things that I saw stand out. I think the first thing is it says $100,000 bonuses she gave to each of the drivers who worked on the full U.S. leg. Now, I want to point out the full U.S. leg, just not anything against Taylor or anything. I'm not one of those people that's complaining about this, but I got to assume that people that filled in or co-drivers or something like that probably did not get those bonuses. It's probably the drivers that hauled the entire tour, which I think they said was like, I don't know, it was like 50 something drivers or something like that for the trailer tractors. And that's a great point that the owner of Show Motion said, is that, you know, a lot of these drivers don't own houses and $100,000 is life-changing. Absolutely, dude. The only reason Claire and I were ever allowed to buy a house was because the artist that I was working for took care of us very well. I had been touring in the industry for almost 10 years before I got to a point where I'm like, wow, I'm making really good money, can actually buy a house and survive off of this. So there are a lot of situations on the road where no, you're not making money where you're going to be able to buy a house and stuff like that. So something like this is like they said, life-changing. Also, when it talks about the bonuses, the 55 million in total, dancers, sound technicians, riggers, truck drivers, I also assume that's got to be backline technicians, backup singers, band members, stuff like that, because Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift. It's not like a band. It's not like these band members and backup singers and stuff have any stake in the actual business. So yeah, that's really cool that she's giving out all these bonuses. According to Schirkenbach, most artists of Swift's stature typically give drivers $5,000 to $10,000 extra, making Swift's bonus nearly 10 times the norm. And while he says his drivers have always received generous bonuses from Swift, none have been at this magnitude. He's also grateful for more than the money. He appreciates the family atmosphere of Swift's tours. They did the documentary on the last tour, Reputation, for Netflix, and she listed my drivers in the credits. To put the drivers' names in the movie credits, that shows the character of a person. He says that she and her family members who work on the tour foster a sense of inclusivity among everyone who takes part. And that's no small feat, since Schirkenbach estimates that there are about 300 people working at any particular date. Now, that 300 people is probably the people that are actually hired by the tour, and that is not including local labor. The amount of people that it's taking to set up all these shows is insane. Like, it's not just 300 people per show. It's way more than that. The comments that I read that bother me the most are when they're comparing what she gives to her net worth, he says. That's irrelevant. There are a lot of very wealthy people who choose not to share a dime of it. We work with all kinds of wealthy people, but this is not the norm. That is a fantastic point to bring up, because I've seen it from industry people. There is a private Facebook group for touring professionals that I'm in where people share information and there's job posts and stuff like that. And when somebody posted an article about this, so many people were complaining, being like, $55 million she gave him bonuses. That's nothing. That tour probably made her $1 billion. It probably didn't make her $1 billion. It maybe grossed that much, but after paying and profits and stuff like that, there's no way she's taking home $1 billion. But that kind of drives me nuts, because it is irrelevant. Like he said, her net worth is completely irrelevant to how she is treating the rest of her crew and stuff like that. If somebody can name me another artist that's given $55 million in bonuses, I can't think of anybody. I've never seen it happen. And in my lifetime, I don't ever remember reading about that. That's insane. So the fact that people are complaining about it, and it's not even just people that weren't on the tour or involved in the show production that are complaining about it. It's like local crews that worked this. I saw people that claimed that they were like steel riggers and stuff at some of the big stadium shows. Like, well, I worked on this tour for the whole week that it was in New York and I didn't get a bonus. I'm like, yeah, because you're a fucking local IATSE worker. For anybody that doesn't know that, that's union. IATSE is the stagehands union in the US. Yeah, you're getting paid a really good amount of money from your union and you only worked on this tour for a week. We're talking about the people that were on this entire tour that were working directly for her. So for somebody like that to complain about what kind of bonuses she's giving to people, that's so dumb. It just goes back to everybody complaining about everything for no reason anymore, man. It's like, she literally gave life-changing amounts of money to people on her crew, and people are finding out a way to be like, nah, Taylor Swift, she's a fucking millionaire or whatever. She could have afforded more. Absolutely insane. Hero just said it's the idea of employers giving their employees what they're worth. She's giving them what she thinks they're worth. You got to keep in mind too that this is on top of what they're already getting paid. When people that tour accept a tour and negotiate their pay, they agree to that pay before they go out. And that's all that's expected. When I negotiate a tour, I only expect what I've agreed to, right? The fact that she probably paid, I don't know what they're making, so I'm not going to speculate, but I would assume that the people on that tour are getting paid well. And then on top of that, they're getting bonuses. I know a lot of the argument with a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just not give them bonuses and just make that their pay to begin with? They're probably already getting really good pay. This is just on top of that. I mean, it's fantastic, dude. I don't know why anybody is arguing this. And I just saw Karen bring up Beyonce. Did you guys see the headline about Beyonce the other day? That shit's crazy too. Beyonce tour pays $100,000 to extend DC Metro after rained delayed show. Rained delayed? Rained? Rain. I assume that should say rain delayed. So the short gist of this is that because her show was delayed, the DC Metro public transportation ends at a certain time. Beyonce paid $100,000 to make it run longer so her fans could use it after the show got out. That's fucking wild. On Sunday, Beyonce's Renaissance Tour team paid $100,000 to keep the Washington, D.C. metro stations open an extra hour after the show was delayed due to pouring rain. The additional hour will be funded by the tour to cover the $100,000 cost to run more trains, keep all 98 stations open for customers to exit, and other operational expenses, the WMATA added. Now, again, this is something really cool. Like, I think that's wild, and I've still seen people shitting all over it. They're like, do you know how much money Beyonce makes? $100,000 to her is nothing. Yeah, maybe that's correct. But the fact that she went out of her way to have her tour pay for an entire public transit station and operation to stay open for her fans, that's fucking wild, dude. Do you know how easy it would have been for her to just be like, it's not my fucking problem. Like, they can take an Uber, whatever. Like, not my problem of how my fans get to the shows or get home from shows. She paid $100,000 to keep it open for the fans. That says more about her as an artist and how much she actually does care about her fans than just the money itself. You know what I mean? Because like it is a good point. $100,000 to her is probably nothing. It's probably like $10 to me, honestly. But that's wild, man. We've had a couple weeks now. We've had headlines of artists doing wild stuff like this, but the internet and other people just keep fucking going crazy about it. It's ridiculous. Comment says, y'all are so freaking pressed when Taylor does something nice to her fans and makes a huge publicity deal out of it. Y'all go crazy and worship her, but when Beyonce does some nice things and something comes out, y'all start nagging. Possibly, but I have seen an equal amount of nagging about the Taylor stuff too. It's people like to just hate famous people when they do stuff, so whatever. This is my favorite one. Of course, the rich liberal elite will manipulate public transportation. Leftists and woke culture are campaigning against cars to stifle Americans' freedoms, so our transportation is subservient to the LGBTQ or LGBT woke elite. That has to be a joke. There's no fucking way that somebody actually, they hit like every fucking political tick word there. That has to be a joke. Somebody also said that's like her paying $10. Yeah, that's what I said. It was like $10 to me. Oh my God. This one says, sadly, the money isn't going to the workers that had to stay late though. They probably got overtime at the very least. So yeah, some of that money probably did go to their salaries, actually. These artists and their PR teams, the moment Taylor's PR team takes the spotlight, here comes Beyonce's. Bro, these PR teams need to shut the H up and stop assuming we're dumb and don't understand these stunts. Pretty aggressive comment, but there could be something behind that. Let's be honest here. They could be like, hey, this would be good PR. Let's do it. But even if that's true, that doesn't take away from the fact that they paid money to do this stuff. Last comment I'm gonna read says, Beyonce making sure you get home safe is a whole other level of gratitude towards fans, and it's amazing. Like I said, the money here isn't the thing that caught my attention. It's the fact that she paid an entire metro public service to stay open longer than they usually do. She didn't need to do that. Like I said, she didn't need to do that at all. It's not her problem. Like, she could have just been like, oh, whatever. They have to make their own arrangements. Because I've been to a lot of concerts and festivals where the same kind of stuff has happened with delays and stuff. And, those artists aren't paying for public transport to stay open. Mr. B said, one thing I learned from watching Jeremy Kyle and Jerry Springer is that there is one kind of people who are at war with everyone and everything around them. It's the way they live their lives like it's their purpose. 100% agree, dude. I know people like that. Like, they think that nothing's fair to them. The whole world is against them and they never get what they deserve and everybody else gets stuff. And it's just fucking excuses for them having miserable lives. Listen, there are people that get into unfortunate situations in their lives. It happens. It's a part of life. But there are also other people out there that legitimately probably would have good lives that just love to bitch about everything. But yeah, I guess that's about it for this one, man. Taylor Swift handed out $55 million in bonuses, Beyoncé paying for an entire city's public transport to stay open, and still, it's not good enough for some people.